Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 328. Our weekly get together. We talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and tonight, Disney seems to be wanting a new Star Wars game every 6 months because that franchise hasn't been much dried yet. The alleged DTA hacker has been arrested. Whether or not they're going to have anything happen to him, we don't know. It is technically an alleged hacker. We don't have any proof of it yet. And Cyberpunk 2077 seems to be having a bit of a resurgence. But is it too early to call it a comeback? All that and more, but first I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching here live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Twitch TV/GamePoints, or later over any myriad of video hosting sites, be it Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, etc., feel free to join in the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns that you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. And of course, the standard, if you like what you see here, you know what to do. Rigmarole that all these podcasters love to do. Follows, bits, subs, all that good stuff. Anyways, moving on to the very first topic that I've got here tonight for you. This is from Insider Gaming. That is Tom Henderson's new outlet, I believe. I think it's a new outlet. I don't recall it until very recently. Headline: Disney wants a new Star Wars game every 6 months. Let's go ahead and get this out the gate right now. Disney will take every single one of your beloved childhood things and milk it to death. They are the death knell of anything nostalgic. Marvel's going through it with how many TV shows and movies they have. Star Wars has been going through it for years now. But the video game part of it has been relatively untouched, primarily due to that EA exclusivity deal they signed so many years ago that didn't really work out for them. Well, now it seems that the floodgates have been opened, so expect a glut of Star Wars gaming content, and I highly doubt all of it is going to be top shelf. Some of it might. Jedi Fallen Order was great, but for every Jedi Fallen Order, you start hearing about the nightmare scenario that is going on with Coder, for example, and its disastrous handling at Aspire, if the rumors are to be believed anyways. To the article itself. Sources have suggested, keep in mind, sources have suggested mean just that. Could be making it up. However, Tom Henderson tends to be decently connected, so I tend to take what he says as his word. Sources have suggested that the entertainment giant Disney wants a new Star Wars video game released every 6 months. It is understood that Disney wants one major AAA title and one smaller game per fiscal year, which is something Lucasfilm is set to deliver on. The ramp up in the video game development for Star Wars games comes after EA lost its exclusivity access to the franchise. So far, there are 8 Star Wars games in development. We have Amy Hennig's unknown game from Skydance, an untitled first-person shooter from Respawn, an open-world game being designed by Ubisoft Massive, Star Wars Eclipse by Quantic Dream, that long, not only want to say long trouble, we just really know about it, but rumors is that specific game won't see the light of day until 2026. The Knights of the Old Republic remake, which I touched on earlier from Saber Interactive, Jedi Survivor, which is the Fallen Order sequel, also from Respawn, Star Wars Hunters, which is a Zynga game, so that should be mobile, and some unknown strategy game also from Respawn. Respawn's really... I didn't know they were working on 3 Star Wars games. I thought they were only working on the 2. I'm highly concerned about them getting stretched out too thinly, considering they're also working on Apex Legends. Anyways, going back to the story. These 8 games are the only titles that have been announced, with sources suggesting there are already several more in pre-development. Some of the, by the way, one of those is believed to be a Mandalorian game. I don't think that's in the article here, but that is one of the ones believed to be in development that we have no information on. Some of the already 8 announced titles are believed to be some time away from release, too. In fact, some of those titles will be at least 4 years away. That would be specifically Quantic Dream's Eclipse. Hey there, Ricky. Good to have you. A whole bunch of stuff. We'll get to it here in a bit. So, I've already mentioned what my problem with this is that they are just going to start pumping out Star Wars game after Star Wars game after Star Wars game. There is a thing as franchise fatigue. I've experienced with Star Wars for years now. I've experienced with Marvel at this point. The Walking Dead had a similar thing to me where I just got bombarded with it nonstop. I just stopped caring. Lord of the Rings is kind of going with it now too. Admittedly, I felt that back when The Hobbit came out. there comes a point where you take an idea and you can only do so many takes and spins and reinterpretations of it before it loses all meaning. And then it starts affecting how much you enjoy the original shit too, because you have just had it beaten into the ground over and over again. And that is why I hate seeing this shit. Eight games, one a year or two a year, and that's just what we know about so far. You have to assume there are more on the way, and that's not counting the myriad of other mobile games they're going to be cranking out. There's probably going to be some VR stuff too, with the PlayStation 2 VR 2 unit coming out soon. I'd imagine they did that Star Wars. They showed it a couple days ago at the VR State of Play. It's a remastering of some Star Wars VR game, which is escaping my mind, but it's set in the new trilogy universe timeline, so I just didn't care. I get that Disney is Disney, and this is what Disney is going to do. They are just going to pre-package your childhood in bite-sized deliveries over and over and over again until you start throwing up on it. But I feel like there's a breaking point with everything at this point. And it's not just because the economy has gone downhill, and it's not because everything is getting just ham-fisted with its messaging. I think even if everything was perfectly normal right now, you'd still feel a breaking point coming. It wouldn't necessarily be as strenuous on the system as it is right now. But there is something, there's a malaise across all entertainment industries right now, be it Hollywood or gaming, where people just are tired, they're bored, they seem like they're looking for something new. At least that's the vibe that I'm getting. Your results may differ, of course. But it really does feel like entertainment as a whole is scraping the barrel. That they're just out of ideas and people are starting to get really wise to it. And I think that's one of the reasons why indie games, the indie being a nebulous term these days, are getting more and more eyes on them. That is why places like A24, when it comes to movies, are starting to get more and more prestige, because these are places willing to take risks. Whereas the mainstays, the Disneys, the Sonys, the EAs, the Activisions, they're just kind of regurgitating the same thing over and over again. And I think you're going to start seeing things collapsing because of it. Let me know what you think down below. Of course, I want to know what your guys' opinion on this. I very well could be out on a ledge for all I know. Let's take a look at chat here. Ricky Dimmy Doo says, are you also going to talk about that new game former DICE developers are making? Yes, I'm not going to talk about it today. I heard mention of it, but typically when it comes to just, hey, we're opening up a studio and we have an announcement, I don't mention that stuff until there's some more news on it, or if it's a really, really slow day. And there are other things we can get into that does not involve that. I will be keeping an eye on that, though, for sure. Let's move on to the next topic here. This is from Video Game Chronicle. GTA hacker suspect pleads not guilty to computer misuse charges. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way up front. This kid's fucked, because it's not his first offense, and he went after the big bucks. To the article. The 17-year-old, reportedly arrested on suspicion of hacking Rockstar and Uber, has pleaded not guilty to charges of computer misuse. Appearing at a specialist London youth court, the teenage boy denied using his mobile phone for hacking purposes, Bloomberg Law reports. I would go to the Bloomberg Law site, however, it is paywalled. So, there you go. City of London police arrested a teenager in Oxfordshire last week and charged him with 2 counts of breach of bail conditions and 2 counts of computer misuse. See, that's where it gets real bad for this kid, because he was already in trouble for other computer shenanigans. You don't do that unless you're cruising for a bruising. This kid is going to be fucked. There's no two ways around it. Prosecutor Valerie Benjamin said in court that the suspect had used a phone to hack into companies and was holding them ransom to gain illegally obtained software. The judge referred the case to a higher court, where it will be heard of a similar matter at a later date. The teen, who is said to associate with the hacking group called Lapisus, was also reportedly arrested earlier this year for hacking Microsoft and NVIDIA. One of the game industry's most high-profile data leaks ever, more than an hour of Grand Theft Auto 6 development footage was published online this month via an anonymous posting on the GTA Forums website. We've all seen it at this point. I won't be showing any of it here because Rockstar is still being very diligent to just axe anyone and anything even remotely coming close to showing that stuff. The police have not confirmed if the arrest is related. They also They have claimed to obtain leaked access via an internal Slack channel, and they said they were also behind a recent Uber data breach. I have to wonder if this might lead to some of these businesses pushing to end work from home quicker. Because this isn't the first time that Slack or Teams or other work from home programs have been used to get this stuff. And these companies might be of the mindset to think the reason why this is happening is because people aren't secure at their homes. They take a more lackadaisical approach to things. That's not to say phishing attempts don't happen in the business sites, but they will be looking for reasons to drag people back into offices. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is used as an example of one of those reasons. Police have not confirmed if the arrest is related to those attacks. However, citing sources familiar to the case, journalist Matthew Keys has claimed the team was charged with the connection of both the GTA and the Uber hacks. According to Keys, the following. The arrest came following an investigation by federal law enforcement officials in the United States who worked with their counterparts in the United Kingdom to identify the teen as a suspect in both attacks. A law enforcement source said that at least 2 other people are believed to be involved in the attack against Rockstar and Uber, and additional arrests are expected. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of big money behind this. It's also international. The kid is in London. They attack U.S. companies, and I believe most of Lapsus is based in South America. So that adds an extra layer of criminality to it all, legally anyways. If this kid is even remotely involved in this, he's fucked. I feel bad for that, but that's what happens when you do things like this. I cannot encourage it in any way, shape, or form, especially for only what turned out to be a drop of clout. I know he was trying to ransom it, but what did you think was going to happen? Admittedly, some companies do pay off the ransom and go from there, but no one is perfect. And when you start knocking off a whole bunch of these places, they tend to start seeing the pattern. But hey, sometimes people aren't smart. Moving on to the next topic here, it seems that Cyberpunk is having a bit of a resurgence. Benji Sales here over on Twitter gave the following stats here, saying that Cyberpunk 2077 has passed the all-time Steam peak concurrent players for The Witcher 3. That means more people were playing Cyberpunk at one time than they ever played at one time on The Witcher 3. There's a bit of a resurgence going on here. Cyberpunk's numbers at one time, peak concurrent players, was 104,827, whereas The Witcher 3 at its all-time peak was a little bit shy of that, of roughly 103,000. Roughly 2 years after the launch of Cyberpunk's disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077, it seems like it's finally found a little bit of footing, due in no small part to the excellent Edge Runners anime currently showing on Netflix. I can guarantee you that is why a lot more people are checking this game out. Admittedly, the Phantom Liberty DLC expansion also helped with that too. However, just because more people are looking at Cyberpunk now, and just because it does run in a better state than it used to, I took a look at it recently myself on my computer, and it does run better than it did. Things are a little bit more stable. There are still, however, some issues with it, and at the end of the day, it still did not deliver what it originally promised. The only way that's going to happen is if they completely rebuild the game from the ground up. That includes having, you know what, I'm not going to get into the details over here because I could wax product for a long time. So I am very loath to call it a comeback for Cyberpunk 2077, as much as I am to say it's glad to see people going into it without the hype. If you went into it blind, not knowing what it was, not hearing about the Keanu Reeves thing at E3, not having years of marketing and hype being pumped directly into your veins, the game is fine. It tries to be a weird cross of an RPG mixed with Grand Theft Auto, mixed with Deus Ex, of which it never really succeeds extremely well at any of them, but it is competent at all 3 of them in its current state. However, we should not forget what happened with this game. And we should hold CD Projekt to task when it comes to their inevitable Witcher 4 or whatever the next thing they're working on. They did say it was Witcher 4. But anything they release from this point out, we must remember this game here. Because they essentially took everyone for a ride, and it was unacceptable that they did that. And I also get the distinct feeling that once Phantom Liberty comes out, they're going to wash their hands of Cyberpunk and just be done with it. So any other problems, I doubt they will ever get back to again. I think that CD Projekt has a vested interest in severing themselves from this game as quickly as possible, which is why they're going back to The Witcher, by the way, a franchise they said they were more or less done with. And then this came out and they went, oh shit, we need to actually get some goodwill back. I digress. If you have been playing Cyberpunk 2077 recently, by the way, let me know how it is. I have not taken a look at it on consoles, which is apparently where the biggest problem of it lies, specifically last gen, which to CD Projekt's credit, it's not, the new expansion is not coming to last gen. It's only going to be on computers and this generation. But I want to know what your experience of it is. So please let me know. We did mention that excellent Edgerunners anime on Netflix. I do recommend everyone take a look at it if you're even remotely a fan of anime, or if you like that Castlevania show they did recently. You'd probably also like Edgerunners. But not to stop there, it seems like they have something else coming up. This is from IGN. Onimusha anime. Netflix shares first look images. That's right, there is an Onimusha anime coming from Netflix. Netflix has really been hitting the anime pretty hard, and they've done a reasonable job with a lot of it. Their live action adaptation shit aside, let's not bring up Cowboy Bebop in this here when we have a good thing going between Devilman Crybaby, which I thought was great, even though a very abridged adaptation of the franchise, with the Castlevania anime, with Edgerunners. I'm really looking forward to this Onimusha thing here. To the article. Netflix has announced and revealed 5 images from an Onimusha anime based on the hit Capcom game series. Revealed in a tweet from Netflix Anime, the stills show a handful of characters against a backdrop of Japan's Edo period. The anime is being created with 3D and CGI characters and hand-drawn backgrounds. The series promises to give new life to the classic game series. I do get the feeling that this is not going to be an adaptation of the first game, by the way. They might make reference to things that are going on it, but this seems to be kind of its own thing set in the universe of Onimusha. Much like how Edgerunners is its own thing set in Night City, whereas Castlevania is roughly a loose adaptation of the first Castlevania and Castlevania 3. Back to the article. No release date was announced, but Netflix did reveal the team behind Onimusha's anime. The project is being led by Takashi Miike. Is it Mike or Mike? He has 2 I's in there. I think it's Mike. I don't know. And Shinya Sugai from Sublimation. That's the studio that released the Dragon's Dogma anime in 2020. And features Toshihiro Mifune as Misashi Miyamoto. That's wrong, by the way. It is only modeled after him. It is not actually featuring a man who has been dead for a few years now. It's just the character is going to be modeled after that actor. Toshihiro Mifune, by the way, is the guy that I think was in all the Akira Kurosawa films. I'm not a Kurosawa fan. I like his stuff, but I'm not like obsessed with it. But I believe that is who was featured in a lot of his films. Capcom hasn't said much about whether the series will make a full return, but did comment this would be the, quote, first animated adaptation of its game series Onimusha, and is firmly committed to enhancing the brand value of its content through different forms of media. It sounds like that to me sounds like they're not necessarily committed to making a new game, but they might be trying to maybe roll another remaster. They remastered the first one all that long ago. Maybe the second one is on the table. I highly doubt the third one would be, however, mainly because it has Jean Reno in it, and there could be some licensing issues going on there. In fact, that could be what's holding up them releasing more Onimushas in general, is that they know there's that roadblock with the third one. So why remaster the second one when you can't do them all the way up to I think the fourth one was Dawn of Dreams, the last one? Onimusha has been a very long dormant franchise. I'm glad to see it coming back. Both Capcom and Konami, and we'll talk about some Konami news later, seem to be getting their stride again. Capcom, definitely. Capcom's in the middle of like a second renaissance almost with their excellent Resident Evil remakes and new Resident Evil games. And they seem to be getting their stride back. Konami, I know for the longest time we've been saying fuck Konami, and that's still something that does apply in a lot of cases. However, they also finally seem to be getting off of their ass again. So I'm going to be very excited to see what they do in the future. All right, next story here. This is via gamesindustry.biz. Twitch lowers top streamers' revenue share. This is bad news for Twitch, by the way. And I'll get into that here in a second. Twitch Wednesday announced that it will be downgrading for subscription revenue split it offers preferred streamers at the beginning of this next year. Twitch President Dan Clancy announced the change in a blog post today, saying the company offers a standard 50-50 share of revenue to streamers, but has for some time had a premium tier of partnered streamers that receive a 70-30 split instead. Essentially, if you got on the streaming platform early and you have been streaming for a long time and you have a pretty massive audience, they give you a little bit of an incentive to take home more of the subscription split. That is coming to an end. The platform stopped offering those premium agreements more than a year ago, as Clancy has said the service has realized it hasn't been transparent about their existence, nor consistent in who they would be offered to. Streamers already on those deals, Clancy said they would earn a 70-30% revenue split on the first 100,000 they earned each year starting June 1st, 2023, and then the standard 50-50 split after that. Clancy said 90% of streamers on standard agreements or premium subscriptions don't earn enough to see a difference in their pay. So this is going to affect most people on Twitch. What this is, however, going to do is go after the big names on Twitch who can afford to move to another platform. YouTube gaming specifically is what I'm thinking of here. They're trying to nickel and dime their biggest earners. And their solution is to embrace their new ads incentive program, which has been notoriously bad for the viewer experience, including up to 6 out of 6 non-skippable ads. They just come suddenly. There's very little control over actually when they can run or not, despite them giving you tools for it. I've never been able to successfully have that fire off well anyways. They're trying to cram more ads while simultaneously cutting the pay and earnings of their top talent. Talent that can't afford to just fuck off and go somewhere else if they wanted to. These are not the actions of a company that is doing well. Now, I know that Twitch is backed by all that Amazon money. But when Amazon starts telling you to start tightening up ship, which is probably where this is coming from, you know there is a problem. And streaming is expensive. They go on to say later on that Clancy justified the change by talking about the cost of streaming video, saying Twitch parent Amazon charges external parties $1,000 for the equivalent of live streaming 200 hours of video to 100,000 concurrent users in a month. So it is an expensive thing, but I don't see how this ends well for Twitch. This feels like them trying to get blood from a stone that they're about to cast away. So, if you are recently starting off your streaming career or you think you can afford to do so, I would actively start looking for alternative platforms, or at the very least get set up on there with your name and a placeholder channel, so that way if/when Twitch goes belly up, you have a home to go to. I highly recommend everyone consider doing that. In fact, this, on top of all the other bad news Twitch has been going through, on top of just all the general bullshit that has surrounded this platform here that I am currently streaming on right now over the past few years, is more than enough reasons to start heavily looking into alternatives. YouTube gaming really being the only one in town, but there are other platforms if you want to branch out through there. I have never been concerned about Twitch's longevity. I have been concerned about where they might be going, but never that they wouldn't exist until this came out. Now I have to wonder if this is even going to exist in a year now from now. It's like I said, these are not the actions of a company that is doing well. Moving on to the next topic here. we have from Push Square, Wild Hearts is an EA Feudal Japan fantasy game set to be revealed later this week. Now, I first saw EA teasing something on their Twitter with various animals looking pissed off and charging at something off of camera. And I kind of just ignored it. And then I saw this article when I was going through my news gathering for the day, and it kind of ended up catching my eye a little bit. The project, which has been made possible through partnership with Koei Tecmo and Dynasty Warriors developer Omega Force, is described as an epic adventure set in the fantasy world inspired by feudal Japan. Wild Hearts will be revealed later this week on September 28th through a YouTube premiere. Now, Push Square assumes that this is going to be some kind of Monster Husk-esque experience because Omega Force developed that kind of game with the Toikaiden series. I've only heard of Toikaiden by name. I didn't know it was a Monster Hunter-esque kind of deal. But I like Omega Force. They're mindless button mashing games. So if you kind of take that fun from a Muso game and add a Monster Hunter kind of vibe to it, there could be something cool here. We'll have more details on this next week, but I did want to mention it because it was making the rounds. So keep an eye out for Wild Hearts. Its premiere should happen by this time tomorrow. All right. Speaking of things that, well, let's just go ahead and get into it. This is via Gamatsu. Silent Hill: The Short Message rated in Korea. I know. More Silent Hill shit. I am just as over this as all of you are. At this point, just show me a fucking game. But unlike most rumors and random images that are popping up online, this actually is coming from a ratings board. So somewhere, someone official from Konami has filed Silent Hill: The Short Message. We know nothing else beyond that for it at all. Other than the people that filed the name are the publisher that publishes Konami games in Korea. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what it could be. There are a myriad of rumors floating around, including a remake of Silent Hill 2 by Bloober. There is rumors of a new Silent Hill short story, or not short story, a smaller Silent Hill game. There was rumors for the longest time that Supermassive might be working on something. I think those ended up not panning out. There were rumors of it incorporating text from your phone. I don't know if any of that's true. I will say, however, one thing that I would assume that this could be, that seems to be a form of possibility, is that Silent Hill: The Short Message is just that, a short message. I would not be surprised if they were going to try to cash in on that PT goodwill and do another 10 to 15 minute demo of whatever this might be. And that could be what the short message is. That if I had to guess, I would say that's probably what this is. I doubt that's the name of any official game as much as just a teaser for what will be the next inevitable Silent Hill. Other rumors and speculations this here via Tech for Gamers. It looks like FromSoftware might be having a job listing for an Armored Core game. Maybe. The description fits anyways, to the article itself. Although Elden Ring continues to do well, it seems like the developer is already busy with future projects, as a new job listing hinted into this leaked title. FromSoftware is hiring a character designer, all but confirming the existence of a brand new Armored Core game. If you take a look at the description here, it mentions things like you need to be able to create like mechs, mechanical engineering, and essentially all that sci-fi goodness that is associated with the Armored Core series. Long story short, someone found a job posting, and the description of that job seems like it'd be great for an Armored Core game. Do we know if it's actually an Armored Core game? I have no idea. Do we know if it's an Armored Core game proper or if it's a spin-off of Armored Core? See previous answer, I have no idea. But given that this posting is here, the other rumors of Armored Core floating around, FromSoftware itself talking about Armored Core recently, I think this is one of those things where the writing is on the wall, and I would assume to see an Armored Core reveal sometime in the next few months. I believe that Sekiro was first announced at the Game Awards. I also believe that Elden Ring was first shown off at the Game Awards. So I wouldn't be surprised if come December, during Jeff Keighley's little annual award show, we also get teased with some sweet, sweet Armored Core. Now, my only concern is that it turns out to be more of a spin-off than an actual proper Armored Core. A franchise, I will admit, I'm not that big of a fan of. I like the idea of it, but I wouldn't be playing it. But given that this has been dormant for so long, you don't fuck your fans over by turning it into some kind of first-person shooter. EA, I'm looking at you with Syndicate. You keep it true to the roots, and if it takes off, then you do the spin-offs. Or just make something new. Don't misuse your IP. Treat the fans with the respect they deserve, and they will give you that same adoration back in the form of sales. While on the topic of award shows, we do have the return of E3. This is via Video Game Chronicle. E3 2023 reveals a revamped consumer business format and dates. This is a trade show that I have long said has been dead, and let's face it, it kind of is. The E3 of old is long gone. However, I am a bit surprised to see it coming back in this format. I thought it would go all digital from here on out, but it sounds like they're going to be doing a live show. E3 2023, which will be the show's first in-person event in 4 years, will officially run Tuesday, June 13th to Friday, June 16th, organizer ReedPop announced on Monday. Announced earlier this year, ReedPop is officially taking over the running of the flagship industry event from the ESA. ReedPop, by the way, are the people who also do PAX. So I would expect a PAXification of the show, at least a little bit. Under the revamped format, the first 2 days will be reserved exclusively for businesses. The third day will welcome both business and consumer visitors, while the final day will be dedicated to consumers. So they're trying to do that hybrid show. For the longest time, E3 was not open to the public. Then they opened it complete to the public, and it was super fucking crowded, and nothing really happened because of it. And then they've been working back and forth with hybrid shows, maybe 1 day of developer, 1 day of fans, etc. It seems like they're keeping that hybridization there. One half of LA Convention Center will be entirely dedicated to business with quieter, more comfortable booths and areas to network. ReedPop also hopes to reopen Keneda Hall, a basement not used for some years for business purposes. The other half of the LACC will be the spectacle of E3 that you're used to, and the first 2 days will also be for business attendees only. In addition, E3 2023 will feature new dedicated meeting space where attendees can connect during using the E3 app and hold meetings. I would say be leery of any E3 apps given how lackluster they have been with their security in the past, but it is a new company. So if you're fine with doing that with PAX, you should be fine with giving up your information with E3 now as well. The E3 owner, the ESA, has previously experimented with consumer elements in the past. In 2017, it sold consumer tickets. We already talked about that, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. This is what I was wanting to bring up. ReedPop said on Monday it wants to create an event that is better for both consumers and business attendees and partner and support everyone announcing games around E3, irrespective of whether or not they're involved officially. This potentially includes Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, which held its first in-person event this summer and has said it will return in 2023 during the same window as E3. I doubt that. I doubt that Keighley wants anything to do with E3 anymore, given that it seemed to be a rather hostile parting of ways when they did separate a few years ago. I do miss E3. There was something to be said about having an overwhelming amount of video game news just pumped directly into your veins every year. It was kind of like the nerd equivalent of the Super Bowl and other sports balls tournaments that are escaping me at the moment. Stanley Cup. I don't watch sports, forgive me. And now that we haven't had any E3 for the past few years, it's become kind of apparent how much of a keystone it really was, because it left a bit of a vacant hole in announcements this year. Now, do I think that Sony or Nintendo or some of the big boys are going to return to this? No. They have their own thing. They control the message way better with their directs and state of plays than they could any live show at E3. Microsoft might still play ball, though. But and the fact that they own Bethesda, too, means that you'll expect them as well. Ubisoft might still play ball here. The Ubisoft 4s, I don't think are nearly as popular as a direct. Ubisoft still having that problem of having their shit run twice as long as it needs to. And then it will also give your middleware groups a chance to show off their stuff as well. Capcom, Konami, THQ Nordic, Tencent, as loath as I am to mention them in anything other than to bag on about how terrible of a company it is. It would be a home for that level of stuff. Also, if Sony was smart, they would plan their state of play or their what's their not state of play showcase, one of their showcases around this time as well, and just have E3 do free marketing for them. That could happen. That does it for the news. We have a couple of delays I want to mention real quick. First up here, Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals delayed until 2023. Not necessarily unexpected. It's been a little bit since we've heard from them. One thing that is unexpected, however, is that the remaster, whatever you want to call it, of Valkyrie Profile Lenneth that was supposed to launch alongside Valkyrie Elysium later this week has been delayed 6 weeks to December 22nd, 2022. The reason why this one's making a little bit of waves is because this was offered as a pre-order benefit if you bought the digital deluxe version of Valkyrie Elysium through Sony, at least anyways. So this is one of the things that people might have bought Elysium for to begin with because they looked at one and went, hey, it's a couple bucks more to get Elysium and I want to play Valkyrie Profile again. So no word on necessarily how this might drive some people that were looking forward to this. But it's the internet, and we all know the internet acts completely rationally. That does it for delays. Let's go ahead and move on to new releases here real quick as we wrap up the show. Coming out this week, Legend of Heroes Trials from Zero, the PC, PS4, and Switch. When Lord Bannings is assigned to the Crossbell Special Support section, he and his new teammates must prove themselves as they fight to overcome the injustice of a city gripped by corruption. This is yet another Legend of Heroes games. These things have a rather devoted fan base. I am not part of it. I do love a good JRPG every now and then, but I think this goes a little beyond the pale. It's just not for me anymore. I used to love these games. I'm hesitant to say I've grown out of them because that kind of portrays them in a bad light. It's just not my taste anymore. Also out this week, the full release of Grounded on PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. Grounded is that, I believe, Obsidian game where it's essentially Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The world is vast, beautiful, and a dangerous place, especially when you have to be shrunk to the size of an ant. Can you thrive alongside hordes of giant insects fighting to survive perils of the backyard? Looks cool. Once again, not my kind of game, though. I'm very much done with the survival game for the most part, and I'm especially not going to be playing anything multiplayer with rare exception. As mentioned earlier, Valkyrie Elysium comes out on the PlayStation 4 or 5 and later on the PC. It is not a day and date release on PC. I think PC comes out mid-November. Long ago, Ragnarok, the end times, lead upon the realms. The All-Father Odin, with his last of his strength, created an emissary of redemption, Valkyrie, her sole task being the salvation of a doomed world. I loved Valkyrie Profile 1 and 2. I am eager to revisit the world they created. However, this does not play like the old games. It's not a full-born RPG. It's an action RPG. I'm still interested in seeing what's going on. I've heard positive things from people who have been reviewing this so far. But if you're looking for that good old obtuse as hell Valkyrie Profile experience, this isn't necessarily going to provide that. That said, I will probably still pick it up later this week. Also out this week, Moonbreaker comes out to early access on PC. Moonbreaker is a turn-based strategy tabletop tactics game designed to be a true digital miniatures experience set in a sci-fi universe created by Brandon Sanderson. Direct captain and crew to determine the fate of the Reaches in a gripping, ever-changing competitive adventure. This is that game that I said I have no interest in playing, but I am extremely interested in its painter. This is it showed up a few weeks ago. I can't remember what event it was, but it was that board game looking thing. We actually had the miniatures on the game, and you could go into a painting tool and wash them and highlight them, and it was like you were actually painting them. They tried to capture that Warhammer experience. I'm more interested in the painter than I am the game itself, and I'm super curious to see how that works out. If this game turns out to be free to play, and I should have looked that up, I will download it just to take a look at the painter. But in fact, let's do that right now. Let me kill a bit of time as you're all just sitting there listening to me ramble as I try to keep dead air from happening. Moonbreaker, come on, we can find it. There it is right there. Oh, it has no price. It just says releases tomorrow. Great. Or Wednesday, rather. Or Thursday? Thursday. Thank you. Thank you for not answering that question, Steam. I appreciate that. Also, finally, FIFA 23 on the PC, PS4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X. It's FIFA. It's FIFA. You know what FIFA is. It's one of the biggest selling games every year. People love that soccer. And more power to you if you do. I'm not here to shit on something that you love. It's just not for me. And that wraps up new releases, which means that does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 328, and thank you all for showing up. I do stream this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints, so please feel to drop on by and be part of the conversation like so many of you do. If you can't watch us live, however, you can watch us on any myriad of video hosting platform sites, be it Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, etc. And if you like what you saw here, you know what to do. Likes, bits, follows, subs, shares, all the good stuff that streamers want. You can follow myself, Steve Brent, at CapitalistPig21, and you can join our Discord server, link provided down there. Well, a link to this show, as well as links to all of our stories we reference, will be provided. Until next time, this has been GamePoints, and I'm out of here.